Welcome back to Rabid Noise on Rabid Radio. Joining me on the program now is Richard West from prog metal legends Threshold. How's it going tonight, man?
Really good. Glad to be a legend.
You're definitely legendary in my book. Great band. Love Threshold. And, yeah, loving the new album. So the new album is just about to be released, and it's your 10th studio album, and it's called For the Journey, which is the follow-up to 2012's March of Progress. With only a 2-year gap between the albums, would you say you guys were on a creative roll during that time?
Yeah, very much so. It's really, we should have spent 2 years between every album. But I think it's getting in the way. You know, sometimes it takes 3, sometimes it takes 5. But we were very conscious with this one that we just finished the tour for March of Progress, and we had so much momentum and so much kind of creative flow going on. We decided, let's get straight back to the studio and channel this, because it felt like we were like running at full speed, you know, and we didn't want to lose that energy.
Totally. Like, you know, sometimes bands, they'll take that time off, and I guess they've got to, you know, get the wheels in motion again. I think that's awesome that you guys just went in there and just laid it all out and came back with another kick-ass album. So, you know,
that's very much how it happened with March of Progress. It was our first album in 5 years for various reasons. We had a couple of lineup changes. And really, when we got to the studio, it spent so long, like you say, getting up to speed, working out who we were as a recording band again, how we were going to work together with each other, how we were going to sound with a different singer. And I love the album that we made, but it was a difficult journey. And so having gone through all of that to get ourselves up to speed, it would have been crazy to spend another 5 years off and then have to go through it all again. And I felt like For the Journey, that momentum just gave us such a great record, and it feels like everything was coherent. We knew exactly what we wanted to do. And you get an album that just flows beautifully from start to finish, which is always what you want to achieve as an artist.
Yeah, exactly. And as you were on that creative flow, how was it going back into, you know, recording? How was that experience for you this time around?
Probably the easiest it's ever been, actually. I think for all those reasons. You know, we knew how to work together. We knew what we wanted to make. Compositionally, you know, we'd written a great album. We knew that was there. And it was, a smooth journey, really one of the best times we ever had in the studio.
Awesome, man. Well, do you do a lot of work at home before you go into the studio? Like, do you have your little MIDI setups and you know, recording program, and do your demos and then go in, or do you just go in and write and record all in one go?
No, it's big time, mate. It's like we make the studio album twice, really. Me and Carl do most of the writing, and we've both got full studios. So we'll sit there and make the demos with all the drums, bass, guitars, keyboards, vocals, backing vocals, everything. So by the time we get to the studio with Threshold, we've got complete demos. We know exactly how they're going to sound. And then it's just the job of the band to then kind of put their personality onto it and make it feel like Threshold. So, yeah, it feels like we make the album twice. So by the time we make it a second time, we've got a pretty good idea of what we're doing.
Did much change? You know, when you give it to the other guys and they come in, you know, they put their own personalities into things. Did much change in regards to the original song?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good at the programming, but, you know, you program up the drum parts and then you get a real drummer in, and it's like chalk and cheese. He comes in and plays all these amazing fills and has these great ideas. Because whereas you as a writer have an idea of drums, a drummer who drums all day has a much better idea, obviously. So it's a real joy when they come in. You know, each musician comes in and puts their art form onto your demo. It's just a lovely moment. And the same for the singer. You know, Damien, the songs are pretty much prescribed for him. You know, they're all written. But he has the freedom to then take the melodies and take the rhythms and make them just work for him. And every singer has their own kind of set of palette, really, that kind of works for them. You know, phrases that work better than others, vocal ranges, all that stuff. So there's a bit of movement, really, just to make sure it really shines for Damien. So by the time you've got all 6 guys doing that, you know, it's just such a pleasure as the songwriter to see your songs develop and develop to the point where they just sound amazing. It's you know, it gets me every time. I've been doing this 20 years, but I still love that process.
Awesome, man. Well, as you said, the band's been together since like 1988, and you know, you've seen so many musical trends come and go, but progressive metal is as popular now as ever. What is it about the style do you think that has kept it so popular over the years?
Honestly, I think it's probably because it never had its moment in the sun. most genres all reach a commercial peak, whether it's hair metal or punk, where they become overhyped and overpressed, and then people kind of get bored of them. Prog metal's always been a bit more underground, so it's been there for people to explore and discover. And I think that's probably what's given it longevity. And it's kind of weird now, we're 20 years on from when albums like Images and Words came out with Dream Theater. And now you're just starting to see Dream Theater playing places like Wembley Stadium in the UK instead of playing the small sweaty clubs that they used to play. And it's like the genre is growing up and starting to become a bit more mainstream. And it's nice to see, we've been plugging away at this, just hoping it's going to keep going, and we're actually seeing it growing, which is lovely.
Especially with the younger generation these days. Most of the younger musos that I know are influenced by guys like Dream Theater, you guys, and even as far back as like Floyd and like earlier proggy stuff too. So it's definitely now there's more of appreciation for the musical side of things, I think.
Yeah, we felt 10 years ago we were seeing our audience seem to be getting old with us. And now we were up at the record label last week and they were saying, have you checked out your Facebook demographics? And they checked them out, and we were all 18 to 30 seem to be our main area now. Now, whether that's just because more of them use Facebook, I don't know. But we're certainly seeing it at the shows. We're getting younger and younger audiences, which is fantastic. It shows we're still moving forward. We're not just heading towards our graves just yet. We've always been called prog metal. Our main influences are progressive and metal. But one journalist wrote our biography for us and called us classic hard rock. And I thought, well, I can kind of get it because the hard rock, this is, it's all part of our sound as well. But classic, I thought that's what you call old people, isn't it?
It's definitely not old people music. It's not, it's not classical. But as I said, like all the young dudes are just absolutely loving it at the moment. Like instead of just throwaway four-chord riffs and things like that, they're really getting into, the bare bones of music. It's great to see.
Well, that's the thing with commercial music, isn't it? It tends to get a bit too simplified. And after a while, it ends up too simple, where you've got, like, say, 4 chords or sometimes even just the one. And those people who want to explore music a bit more, want to explore the art form, aren't going to get satisfied by listening to commercial radio. And so it's great that there are genres like prog metal, similar to jazz or classical, where you can actually go and explore music in a bit more depth. And it's really nice to be part of that scene.
Definitely, man. It would be awesome. It definitely would be awesome from your point of view too, seeing it, how it's grown over the years and where it's at now. So who would you class as your own personal influences, like when you first started?
When I grew up, it was really Queen and Genesis. They were the bands that got me into this sort of music. I was the same. I was listening to commercial radio, and 3-minute pop songs are fun. But then you discover Bohemian Rhapsody, and you discover Genesis albums and then there were 3. And for me, as a young boy, my eyes just got open to this beautiful thing that you could do with music. And I think as a young piano player, I was quite drawn to the fact Freddie was playing quite a lot of piano back then in Queen, and Genesis were using it quite a lot as a backdrop on various albums in the 70s. And so I identified with that pretty quickly. And then I got captured by the songwriting. I got captured by all the harmonies, all the directions you could take the music. You could do a 10-minute song and explore something really creative with it rather than being constrained to a little 3-minute format. And then I started noticing all these synths that bands like Genesis were using, adding all these beautiful layers of analog keyboards, just lush sounds. I just fell in love with the whole thing and made me want to be a keyboard player in a band.
I personally, I'm a big fan of having keyboards and samples and things like that in music, especially metal. Because I'm into my proggy and industrial stuff as well. And I don't think there's enough, especially where we are, there isn't enough keyboard players out there. Everyone wants to be drummers and guitarists and singers and things like that. So when we do find a good keyboardist, you've got to snap them up as quick as you can. So I guess that's what inspired you, wasn't it?
I was the same at school, actually. Years and years ago, back at school, there were 4 or 5 bands in my year. I was the only keyboard player, so I ended up in all the bands.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I guess that's like drummers these days as well. Most of the drummers I know, they're in 4 or 5 bands at the moment. I don't know how they do it. But yeah, there needs to be more keyboardists out there, I think.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Yeah,
so breaking up there a bit.
So a lot of progressive musicians I know prefer to record albums in the studio than playing shows. You know, a lot of them are like tinkering with sounds and just recording. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer getting into the studio and writing and recording, or getting out there and playing live?
Honestly, I love them both. There's such a joy and an energy to both of them. Writing is probably my first love. You know, just having that freedom to sit down and create something new is beautiful. But the whole touring thing's so fun. You know, everything from getting on the bus, you're out on the road for a few weeks. All you got to do is sit up every day and play your songs to hopefully an appreciative audience, and it's just great, the whole thing. Absolutely love it. I've loved it since I was a kid and still love it now.
It's so good to hear, man. It's so good to hear that you've achieved your dreams and you're still kicking ass 20 years later, you know. Not many people can go out and do that, you know. They make a band, they'll do all right for a little while, it'll phase off, but you're still going strong after all these years, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that the trick is to see it as an art form, and, you know, when you're creating anything, you don't just run with the commercial constraints. You don't think, I'll write a 4-minute song because it might get on the radio, or I'll write a 4-chord song, even worse. But you just create something that makes your heart melt, that makes you feel like you created something beautiful. It makes your heart beat a bit faster. And if you can approach everything with that, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're going to sell 1 million records or one record, but you've created something beautiful and done something worthwhile. And if you then have the fortune that we've had to actually go out and take that into the public world, it's just a real pleasure all the way through. I think if I was out there doing little 3-minute pop songs with no chords in and doing really well with it, I probably wouldn't feel as satisfied as I do doing Threshold, even though we're on a lower level commercially. You know, it's just the real joy. I know whatever happened, I made something beautiful, and that's enough for me.
And it's out there forever.
Yeah, so you may as well make it good.
And it is good. You guys are kicking ass. I love it.
Thank you.
So can we expect you guys to tour down here soon?
Oh, I'd love to. I see you've got Soundwave going on at the moment, and we'd love to be part of that. So we'll be talking to our agent, seeing if we can do it. But, you know, being a European band, we pretty much play Europe, which is just the way of the world these days. But we'd love to do more. So, yeah, get on to your local agents, get them to book us. We'd love to come down, spend a few months with you.
That would be cool. That'd be cool to see you guys down here. And Soundwave, it's massive. So I'd love to see you guys on that bill.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome, man. So what's next for Threshold?
Well, the album comes out in September, and then we'll be off on the road, like I say, mostly around Europe, throughout October and November, which is going to be great fun. We get to take out some of the best new songs off the album and a few surprise oldies for everybody. And, you know, wherever we go in Europe, we get Australians coming to the shows. It's brilliant, whether we're playing London or Prague. You know, you always get guys coming over. So we do know we have to return the favour and come to your place next time.
Man, the beers will be here waiting for you, you know. You know what we like to be. Well, it'd be great to see you guys down here. So I've got my fingers crossed to see you guys live finally.
That sounds good to me. We'll keep the beers for the day off these days. Yeah. We used to, when we were a young band, we'd go out on tour, and you'd turn up backstage, and, you know, you open the fridge and there's 100 beers in there, because that's what they do. And you think, we've got to drink them all. We're on tour. This is fantastic. And then you go out on stage and you play a fairly rough show. And after a while, you notice the audience are kind of not so appreciative. And it took us probably 2 or 3 tours before we realised, okay, maybe we shouldn't be drinking before the show. It's so ingrained when you're a young musician. You think that's what rock bands do. So these days, we'll just drink water and coffee through the day. Get to the end of the show, we might just unwind with a bottle of wine between us or something. But a little bit different to the old days. I think we play better as a result.
Yeah, I think a lot of bands do. I mean, I've noticed that, you know, these days I don't get on stage and have a few like I used to. But, yeah, you are right. But, hey, after party, man, that's where it's at, right?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to go to the track Watchtower on the Moon from For the Journey now. Thanks so much for hanging with us tonight, Richard, and I wish you the best of luck with all your plans with Threshold.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.